In a distant future, Dr. Arva Venla, a brilliant Kellian scientist, faces extinction for her race. When human physician Dr. Ethan Davis answers a signal of desperation, their worlds collide, igniting a breathtaking quest filled with love and scientific discovery. As their bond deepens, the ethical dilemmas of their choices could either save or doom both their peoples. Don't forget to subscribe. 91% of viewers enjoy our content but forget to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with our daily sci-fi stories and support a dedicated team of storytellers and content creators who rely on this as their livelihood. In a distant future where stars shimmered as faint memories in the vast expanse of space, the sterile glow of the laboratory illuminated Dr. Arva Venla's worried brow. She was a member of the Kellian race, her features characterized by the iridescent blue skin that shimmered in the artificial light, and large, expressive black eyes that mirrored the vastness of the void outside. As she shuffled through a multitude of data displays, her angular face betrayed a mix of exhaustion and determination. The walls, adorned with intricate diagrams of alien genetics and the remains of experiments gone awry, seemed to close in on her, amplifying the weight of her people's plight. This was more than a scientific challenge. It was an anguished battle for survival against extinction, a theme that rang loudly in the corridors of her mind. Each day began the same way, with the aching silence that echoed through the empty hallways of her facility, a metaphorical ghost haunting what remained of a once thriving community. The Kellians were on the brink, their reproductive abilities failing at an alarming rate. Arva could feel each heart-wrenching statistic like a pulse in the fabric of her being. Suddenly, a low hum interrupted her spiral into despair, and the atmosphere shifted as the large, reinforced door slid open with a mechanical hiss. Arva turned to see a tall figure in a crisp white lab coat. "Dr. Venla?" His voice reverberated with a strange blend of authority and warmth, cutting through the tension in the air. "I'm Dr. Ethan Davis. I came to help," he stated with a calm that belied the severity of the situation. Arva's heart raced, both with hope and skepticism. The humans had always occupied a precarious position in her mind, a juxtaposition of awe and wariness. "Help? You understand our plight is more than mere biology, Doctor?" Her tone was defensive, a shield against the unknowns that accompanied human intervention. "I do," Ethan replied, the sincerity in his hazel eyes grounding her doubts. They conveyed a depth of understanding that perhaps, just perhaps, this human was different, an ally willing to explore the unexplored. "And I'm here to do everything in my power to offer solutions." As they began discussing their respective fields, the tension in Arva's chest lightened by a fraction. Ethan explained the array of advanced medical technologies he had brought with him from Earth, their glowing panels and sleek interfaces a stark contrast to the organic designs of her own lab. His voice, rich and reassuring, wove a web of connection between them, bridging the vast divide of culture and species. The more Arva listened, the more she became aware of how the complexities of her people's genetics mirrored aspects of humanity. Underlying truths danced around them in the glow of the screens, an uncharted territory waiting to be explored. However, lurking beneath this blossoming partnership was an unsettling undercurrent. Arva remained guarded, her scientific mind critiquing every triumphant surge of emotion. Their shared longing for answers ignited an unexpected synergy, sparking within her a flicker of optimism that she hadn't dared to allow herself to feel for a long time. Would this collaboration lead to salvation for her race, or would their intertwining destinies break her heart? "Tell me more about these genetic anomalies you've faced," Ethan inquired, drawing Arva back from her clouds of uncertainty. Days bled into nights as Dr. Arva Venla and Dr. Ethan Davis labored in the heart of the research complex, a sleek amalgamation of metallic panels and bioluminescent consoles that pulsed with the rhythm of their collective heartbeat. The complex was an ever-evolving environment where holographic screens floated above workstations, displaying furious streams of genetic data, cosmic charts, and alien biochemical pathways. Each corner showcased technological wonders that straddled the line between art and science, drawing both figures deeper into the enigmas that surrounded them. In the center of this labyrinth of innovation, a stark white light illuminated a central chamber known as the Convergence Lab, an ethereal space where two worlds collided. Around them, machines hummed and clicked, a symphony of advanced engineering performing the delicate operations of genetic manipulation. Yet, for all the marvel at their fingertips, the burden of their task felt crushing. "We're getting nowhere," Arva muttered, rubbing her temples in frustration. The weight of her people's plight pressed down like a tidal wave, threatening to drown her in despair. She surveyed the plethora of failed experiments scattered about, discarded vials of glittering fluid, notes scrawled hastily, and data that flared with failure. Ethan turned toward her, his expression a mix of concern and determination. "We just need to refine our approach. Science is never as linear as we want it to be. Every setback gets us closer to figuring this out." His voice held a steadiness that gave her a flicker of hope. "But how many more iterations do we have to go through? My people are running out of time. I feel their hope waning with each failed attempt," Arva exclaimed, her voice rising as she swept an arm across the table, sending papers fluttering into the air. The frustration painted on her face was all too vivid. Ethan dropped his gaze to the floor, where the discarded papers crumpled. Deep down, he ached for her. He could grasp the tension that knotted in her stomach, the conflict between hope and despair that had turned her usually bright eyes into a stormy sea. "We have to believe, Arva. We've discovered the genetic sequences that have remained dormant for generations. We just need to ignite them. There's only so much belief can do when we're faced with extinction," she shot back, biting her lip as she faced away from him. The atmosphere chilled, thickening with the silence that followed. It was then that Ethan realized how dangerously close to the edge they were, not just in their research but in the emotional toll it was taking on both of them. He took a breath, letting the weight of her words settle. Turning towards the holographic board, Ethan began inputting new parameters into their simulations, theorizing potential alterations that could rekindle the lifeblood of her heritage. Each moment spent in the lab tethered him deeper into this feeling, a connection that blurred the lines between human and Kellian. As hours transformed into an unrelenting blur, they fell into a rhythm, a complex choreography of hope and heartache. "We can also analyze the latest genetic anomalies we discovered in the elder Kellians," Arva suggested one day, excitement glimmering in her eyes for the first time in weeks. The vibrant patterns of her pale skin seemed to illuminate with this fresh revelation. With renewed vigor, they dove into an array of profiles that revealed links between age and fertility, fueled by long-forgotten tales. "What if we find a way to combine elements of your genome that are still viable with those of your ancestors?" Ethan proposed, glancing at her eagerly. "Yes, if we could extract what remains of their genetic essence, we might be able to map the markers that signify fertility." "It is worth a shot," Arva replied, her fingers dancing across the screen as she initiated the sequence. As they worked late into the night, shadows played against the walls, flickering like ghosts of their past failures but also whispering secrets of hope. Exhausted but exhilarated, they teased at laughter through the tension, sharing fragments of their lives before their destinies intertwined. Ethan observed Arva, the graceful lines of her form illuminated by the glowing screens, an embodiment of resilience. "What was your childhood like?" he asked quietly, intrigued by the nuances of her world. "It was different," Arva said slowly, her focus drifting as she caught a breath of nostalgia. Growing up in the high cradles of Zorith, we often experienced rituals that connected us deeply to nature. The Breath of Life ceremony was a sacred time, and we would gather by the chasms of Elaris to absorb the night's luminescence together. Ethan nodded, enchanted by her description. I can only imagine how beautiful that must have been. She smiled wistfully, her expression softening for a heartbeat. We would light the ancient lamps that emitted soft glows, guiding the way to our ancestors while we sang songs of remembrance, a bond unbroken through the eons. But now, I fear, my people will have no such memories to pass to the future. As her voice trailed off, a heavy silence descended, laden with the enormity of their task. Ethan reached out, placing a hand over hers, a simple gesture, but one that tethered their souls. We'll keep fighting for more memories. Not just for your people, but for us. Time seemed to stretch, the gravity of their shared resolve weaving a tapestry of connection. Every attempt in those following nights, however, only led them back to the bitter brink. The nerve-wracking cycles of trial and error started to erode Arva's spirit. Ethan, too, felt a dull ache in his chest as he watched her grapple with the burden of leading her people toward a future that felt increasingly out of reach. Arva, listen, Ethan said one evening, breaking the cycle of despair that had begun to fog their interactions. Outside, the stars shone brighter than ever, as if mocking their efforts. As frustrating as this is, we need to step back and clear our minds. Overthinking may be what's undoing us. She frowned, the tension still evident in her expression. You think taking a break is going to solve anything? People are dying, Ethan. I know, he said, catching her gaze. But sometimes you need distance to find clarity. Let's explore the data with fresh eyes in the morning. We might just uncover something we missed. She stared at him, the turmoil of emotions evident. He could see her heart battling against a resolve that had been forged long before their meeting. Slowly, she nodded, the lines of stress lessening on her brow. All right. As they closed their eyes for the night, an unsettling mystery loomed in the depths of their subconscious, a certainty that every failure brought them closer to the unthinkable. The air was thick with tension late that evening, the flickering lights of the lab casting long shadows against the walls. Dr. Arva Venla stood before a sweeping display of holographic data, her fingers flying over the controls. Each age-old equation seemed to dance before her eyes, a ballet of hope and despair interwoven into complex patterns. For weeks, she had plunged herself into the depths of genetic sequences, trying to piece together the answers that might save her dying people, the Kellians. Dr. Ethan Davis, a human from Earth, observed from a distance, his brow furrowed in contemplation. The sterile white of the lab contrasting with the ethereal blues and greens of the holograms created an otherworldly atmosphere, a stark reminder of their colliding cultures. Ethan was here to help, but he felt the enormity of their task weighing heavily like a cosmic burden on his shoulders. Finally, with a sudden flare of determination, Arva turned to Ethan, her eyes brimming with resolute courage. What if we integrate our genetics? The human genome may offer the breakthrough we need. It's risky, but Ethan's breath caught in his throat, caught between the exhilaration of hope and the terrifying implications of her proposal. Arva, that's our best chance. Think about it, she insisted, her voice rising with passion. If we reconnect with nature, if we tap into what has made both our races unique. A shiver ran down Ethan's spine. The Kellian race was famously secretive about their genetics and culture, a fact he had learned during his briefings. To incorporate human DNA into Kellian biology sounded like stepping into a dark abyss, terrifying yet exhilarating. Arva, he cautioned, but what if it doesn't work? What if it leads to unforeseen consequences? Merging two vastly different genetic codes could have radical results. Her gaze softened but steeled itself in the face of his fears. Or what if it does work? She stepped closer, her enthusiasm so palpable that it took Ethan's breath away. We could save my people and create a bond between our races that transcends this moment. It could be the dawn of a new era. Ethan's heart raced, the very foundation of scientific collaboration cringed at the thought. Yet her determination pierced through his doubts. What lay ahead was fraught with uncertainties, but the fire burning in her eyes beckoned him. His moment of deliberation vanished as he felt the weight of their shared mission. The survival of the Kellian people was at stake. If we're going down this path, he agreed with a nod, a resolve building within him, we must commit entirely. With a fierce nod, Arva reached out, her fingers brushing against his, an electric moment that extended beyond mere partnership. In that charged silence, they were no longer two races. They were allies united by a singular purpose that entwined their very beings. In a universe filled with chaos, they had found a point of convergence amidst the stars, forging a connection that would transcend the boundaries of biology, culture, and even species. With their agreement solidified, days transformed into an exhilarating frenzy of scientific ambition. The lab bustled with newfound intensity as Arva and Ethan poured everything they had into comprehending the complex structure of their genomes. They analyzed sequences, generated models, and synthesized data, visualizing proteins and enzymes weaving in and out of intricate patterns. The nights blurred into dawns, the soft whirs of machinery providing a rhythm as they collaborated seamlessly, each step more vital than the last. They explored every avenue of genetic manipulation, their combined expertise creating a tapestry of revolutionary possibilities. It was as if the lab itself hummed with hope, the sterile metal and screens breathing life into dreams once thought impossible. But beneath the surface of palpable excitement lingered currents of unease. While their shared passion cultivated an undeniable bond, questions clanged ceaselessly in Ethan's mind. Was it right to gamble with life? The merge of different species could yield miracles or catastrophic failures. What would happen if human DNA was introduced into Kellian genetics? A race already adapted to an entirely different set of environmental conditions. One evening, as dawn broke outside, a light flickered on the control panel, casting eerie shadows that danced across Arva's face. She gazed at Ethan, uncertainty creeping into her voice. Ethan, if we do this, if we combine our genetic material, we must be prepared for any outcome, including the possibility of mutations. Ethan nodded slowly, feeling the air thicken with contemplation. I understand, he replied, but we have to stay focused on the goal. The stakes are too high. But his voice carried the weight of dread. Each failure loomed like a shadow, waiting to consume the fragile hope they had built. The following week, the time arrived when they would take their first tangible step toward this groundbreaking endeavor. Ethan set up the equipment with meticulous attention, his hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from sheer anticipation. Today held the promise of change, a flicker of potential that could set off ripples across the universe. Are you ready? Arva's voice emerged soft yet steady, a beacon in the uncertainty, as she approached him, her expression mirroring his own tightened resolve. I am, he replied, a newfound conviction filling him. For your people and for us. They worked in fluid harmony, executing tasks seamlessly with an unspoken understanding. As Ethan activated the primary sequences, a surge of exhilaration coursed through him. The sharp beeps of machinery filled the air, synchronized with the rapid beating of his heart. Everything is stabilizing, he announced, his voice breaking the intensity around them. Arva leaned closer, intently watching the cascading data on the screens as the readings came to life. What if this works? She whispered, her eyes wide with binary emotions, hope and fear dancing in a delicate balance. "It will," he promised, locking eyes with her, realizing just how deep their connection had woven itself into the very fabric of their consciousness. It was at that moment Ethan comprehended just how intertwined their fates had become. As the procedure progressed, a flicker of hope ignited between them. With each successful observation, Ethan felt a warmth blossoming in the dark corners of uncertainty. "What if we didn't just save your people but expanded our understanding of life itself?" he mused, excitement lacing his words. Arva's eyes sparkled with potential as she responded, "The union of our genes could represent a leap forward in evolution. Two worlds merged into a single path. Imagine the possibilities." As they spoke, a deeply resonant sensation thrummed in the air, a palpable bond that was evolving alongside their scientific ambitions. Love and science intertwined like vines, growing robustly and enveloping them in a protective cocoon. The sterile lab buzzed with the sound of machinery and the whir of data analyzers, the air thick with expectation as Dr. Ethan Davis prepped the medical equipment. A network of holographic displays surrounded him, each shimmering with vital information on Kellian biology, glowing signs of the hope he fought to create. It was a day of reckoning, a pivotal moment when science, courage, and destiny collided. Ethan's heart raced as he meticulously arranged the tools needed for the first insemination, a newly forged bond between their two races almost palpable in the air. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his chest, but there was a steady resolve born from weeks spent working alongside Dr. Arva Venla. She was more than a colleague now. She had become his ally, restless spirit, and, he dared to admit, the object of his affection. "Are you ready?" Arva asked, her voice slicing through the tension like a soft wind. She stood by his side, her luminous eyes reflecting both intense determination and slight trepidation, creating a mix that left Ethan breathless. "I am," he replied, the timbre of his voice steadying as conviction took hold. "For your people, and for us." The words held a weight of promise, a commitment to not just science but also to an uncharted path that lay ahead as their personal feelings wove into the fabric of their collaboration. The soft instruments glowed and hummed as they prepped the procedure. Each motion was brought forth with gravity, as if they were moving within a sacred ritual. Arva focused intently on the readings while Ethan made fine adjustments to the delicate equipment, their hands brushing against one another, igniting sparks of connection that ignited the underlying tension brimming between them. The atmosphere thickened, the mundane lab transformed into a sanctuary where fear and hope danced in a delicate balance. Every step, every successful calibration made them feel as if they were conducting a symphony of hopes and dreams, where every note they played contributed to an eventual crescendo, the possibilities stretching across the stars. Ethan watched as Arva adjusted the settings with precise care. Her brow furrowed in concentration, and he admired how unyieldingly fierce she was in her quest to save her people. There was a quiet elegance about her, an unrestrained spirit that compelled him closer with every shared difficulty and triumph. "What if this works?" Arva whispered, her voice barely above the hum of the machinery. The question hung in the air, imbued with equal parts wonder and fear. "It will," Ethan assured her, locking his gaze onto hers. "We've come this far, together." In that moment, he felt a warmth bloom in his chest, a swirl of emotions that reminded him of the vast unknown galaxy spread out before them, a universe rich with uncertainty and adventure. As he prepared for the crucial moment, his mind played a teeter-totter game between excitement and dread, rich with sentiments that bounded beyond mere atoms and datasets. Their work was entwined not just through scientific discovery but through human connection, each shared moment forging bonds that surpassed the laboratory walls. The procedure commenced, and Arva positioned herself in front of the interface, her fingers dancing over the controls as she looked up at Ethan with fierce determination. "Let's do this," she stated, steeling herself as anticipation flickered in the depths of her eyes. Ethan nodded and activated the machinery, watching as the monitors danced with bursts of data, glowing alongside Arva's resolute spirit. The air thickened with a powerful mixture of exhilaration and fear as they took their first tentative steps toward rewriting their fates together. "This is it," he murmured, almost to himself, feeling the pulse of innovation thrumming in his veins. The equipment whirred gently, storing the critical genetic information, the interface fluidly mapping their combined genetic structure. As the intricate anomaly unfolded before them, Ethan marveled at the complexity of life, the reality of two species intertwining in pursuit of something larger, a thread bridging space and culture in a tapestry of love and survival. Moments faded into each other, blurred by the glow of holograms and pulsating machinery that seemed to hold its breath in collective anticipation. What will it mean if this works? He wondered aloud, lips curling slightly as he caught Arva's gaze, a mirror of his own curiosity and hidden fears. "Change," Arva affirmed, her eyes sparkling. "It could change everything, our people's future, the way we see each other, the way we live." A silence enveloped them, entwining their fates like the delicate tendrils of a cosmic vine. The enormity of their undertaking, of merging two vastly different worlds, was not lost on them. As if sensing their trepidation, the machinery responded with a soft beep, breaking the tension as if reaffirming their choice. "The first attempts," Ethan stated, determination settling over him like a warm cloak. "They'll require us to remain strong, especially if they—" The words hung heavily, an unsaid weight tugging at his heart. "If they fail, failure is simply a stepping stone toward greater understanding," Arva reassured with a fervent conviction. Her voice resonated deeply within him, as comforting as the stars twinkling in the void outside. They worked seamlessly together, hands meeting over panels and keyboards as they orchestrated a symphony of science and courage. Time ebbed away, and interactions transformed into vivid memories, each of which fortified the resolve blooming within the corners of their hearts. A sudden flash across the screens jolted them both, a collision of energy sparking adventure within the confines of sterile walls. The emotions built, a crescendo was palpable as the data processed the results. The monitors whirred and chattered, data forming into structured images, a collage of two races uniting under the shared struggle for survival. One of the screens flickered brightly, painting scenes of potential life. "What if it works and it doesn't just help my people?" Arva pondered, and Ethan could see her thoughts unfold like the gentle turning of a galaxy. "Then it shall bring the Kellian and human races closer," he replied, mesmerized by the flame in her vision. A future built of compassion and understanding, woven through the threads of their shared sacrifice. "What about you?" Arva turned, her eyes searching his for the truth behind his steadfast metaphorical armor. "What about your choices?" A question so exquisitely woven could only blossom amid the glow of scientific possibility. "I stand by you, no matter where this leads," he declared, feeling their connection flare as brilliantly and beautifully as the celestial bodies outside the lab's confines. With the pressing weight of their endeavors and the future on their shoulders like a cloak of starlight, they prepped for the final phase. Arva inhaled slowly, as if drawing in the very essence of the amalgamating potential that danced on the cusp of realization. As the weeks unfurled like petals blooming in slow motion, the air between Arva Venla and Ethan Davis grew heavy with emotions they were both reluctant to name. The laboratory, once a sterile backdrop to their frantic rush for answers, transformed into an intimate cocoon where humanity mingled with the alien, science blended with the sublime, and despair began to dissipate like mist in the morning sun. Evenings were marked not merely by data analysis but also by shared glances and unspoken words, each moment stretching and bending with the gravity of their budding connection. When Ethan would catch sight of Arva, deeply immersed in her research, a whirlwind of admiration and conflicting emotions would pull at his heart. Her determination sparked something within him, a resilience that inspired hope despite the magnitude of their task. "Ethan," she said one evening, her voice breaking through his thoughts like a bell tolling in the silence. "Do you think we're naive for believing we can change the fate of my people?" He set down his tablet, the soft whir of technology fading into the background. "Naive? No. Hopeful, perhaps, but that's not a flaw. It's what pushes us forward." He leaned closer, sensing the tension in her well-practiced composure. "Your people deserve that hope, and you deserve it too. I want to help you achieve that." Emotion danced in her emerald eyes, vulnerability glistening like stars scattered across a night sky. "What if we're not merely attempting to save my race? What if we're altering the fabric of existence for both our species?" Ethan considered her words, a flicker of realization igniting within him. "Maybe that's the point," he said gently, the gravity of the moment intertwining their fates. "Every choice we make in this lab carries weight. We're not just scientists with beakers and test tubes, we're builders of a potential future." His declaration hung between them, shattering the barrier of professionalism that had kept their feelings at bay. The pale fluorescence flickered faintly, casting shadows around them, echoing the duality of their situation, the light of scientific discovery juxtaposed against the darkness of uncertainty. As the days melted into a rhythm of late-night experiments and whispered sentiments, they reveled in the precarious yet thrilling dance of love amidst the shadows of their potential failure. Fueled by the urgency of their task, each shared laughter and fleeting touch ignited an electric current that neither could ignore. Arva began to allow herself to dream, not just of success in their work, but of a shared life with Ethan as partners in every sense of the word. One particularly late evening, the lab was illuminated by a storm of thoughts and emotions swirling around them like a cosmic dance. Arva leaned closer, her heart racing. "Do you remember the first time we spoke? I was apprehensive, unsure if you understood the depths of our struggle." Ethan smiled, warmth flooding his features. "I recall. You were fighting the tide of despair, and I was just trying to keep afloat in a sea of unfamiliarity." "And now?" she asked, her breath catching gently as her gaze locked onto his. "Now," he replied, the sincerity in his voice lacing the air like the finest silk, "I don't just see a brilliant scientist. I see a woman who carries the weight of her people's future." With those words, the emotional dam cracked, unleashing a powerful flood. Arva's lips curled into a smile that transformed her entire being, dissolving the hardness that had once shielded her heart. Together, they took a metaphorical leap, stepping closer than ever before, their lips brushing dangerously close, igniting a singular moment where the world faded away, their hearts beating as one. Yet amidst this whirlwind of feelings, a silent storm brewed beyond the walls of their lab. Reports of the Kellian race's plight reached far beyond their confined space, drawing the attention of factions, some supportive, others adversarial. The weight of expectation began to coil around Arva's heart. She feared their love might become another casualty of a conflict she was loath to ignite. "Ethan," she interjected, her voice trembling with hesitation, "what if they find out? What if this becomes more than just a scientific endeavor but a political chess game?" "Let them try," he countered, a fire igniting within. "We won't let fear dictate our choices. We're strong enough to carve our own destiny." "Easier said than done," she replied, her brow furrowed as anxiety coursed beneath her calm demeanor. "I've witnessed what you're capable of. You're a force of nature, Arva. We'll face whatever comes together," Ethan pledged, his gaze firm and unwavering. While confidence radiated from Ethan, uncertainty loomed over them like ominous clouds. But the very act of choosing each other amidst the chaos became their distinct rebellion, a manifestation of the indomitable human spirit that craved connection and understanding, even across the universe. Weeks passed in a blur, blending science with romance, but time slipped like sand through their fingers. As they prepared for the formal presentation of their findings, Arva's apprehension bubbled beneath the surface. The calm before the storm felt almost familiar, a shared understanding passing silently between them. "Ethan, are you ready for this?" Arva asked one night, the weight of their culmination heaving against her chest. "I am," he replied, brushing her hair back with a tenderness that sent shivers cascading down her spine. "As long as you're by my side." She sighed, interlacing her fingers with his, feeling the warmth spread through her. Together, then. Yet, as they stepped onto the precipice of public scrutiny, a shadow flickered at the periphery of their burgeoning love. An opportunity laced with the potential for irrevocable change loomed ahead. On the day of the presentation, anticipation rippled in the air like electricity, the tension palpable as esteemed scientists and political dignitaries assembled, each encased in their expectations and skepticism. The enormity of their task struck hard against Arva's mind, yet Ethan's presence grounded her, steadying her resolve. "Ladies and gentlemen of both our worlds," Ethan began, his voice ringing out through the room. "Today, we stand at the nexus of something unprecedented." Arva watched him, admiring the way his confident demeanor captivated the audience, seamlessly melding charisma with the weight of their findings. "Through our collaboration, a fusion of our species, we have established a groundbreaking procedure that could alter the course of the Kellian race. It could bring new life, a promise amid despair." As he spoke, Arva's heart swelled with pride knowing that their efforts had birthed something that transcended gender, race, and species, an intrepid endeavor that dared to blur the lines between them. Yet the applause was swiftly overtaken by the murmurs of doubt and fear, creeping into the air like tendrils of smoke. Questions raced back to them, reverberating like a distant heartbeat. But what of the consequences? What if this hybridization leads to unforeseen calamities? Arva stepped forward, her voice steady even amidst the clamor of concern. "Every advancement in history has been met with skepticism. Yet it is through that friction that we find true progress. Love and hope drive our pursuit, and together, we can harness the energy to propel us forward, towards unity, towards healing." The room shifted, confronted with her unwavering passion. She could feel the weight of all she had witnessed, the desperation of her people, the yearning for love, and the delicate balance of their joint future. Yet, as she stood tall, something within her flickered, a dim memory of the shadows lurking just beyond the laboratory doors, waiting for their moment to strike. The delicate balance they had achieved was fragile, and as light emerged, darkness followed on its heels, seeking to reclaim what it had almost lost. "Are you prepared to bear the consequences?" one delegate asked, his tone both accusatory and questioning. Ethan's eyes burned with resolve as he met the delegate's gaze head-on. "We are prepared to face those consequences together, because that, above all, is the essence of our endeavor. Love and science entwined have the potential to create something beautiful. We owe it to our races to seize this moment, to transcend fears and limitations, and step boldly into a brighter future." With the weight of their words resting heavily in the air, a silence descended, an acknowledgement of vulnerability amidst their audacity. The audience absorbed their resolve, confronted with the undeniable truth that to choose love meant facing fears and uncertainties head-on. Arva turned to Ethan, their eyes locking in an unspoken promise. Whatever lay ahead, they would forge their own path together. As the final applause and scattered murmurs echoed around them, both felt the chill of anticipation merging with the warmth of hope. They had sparked a conversation, a ripple that could ignite change, breaking down barriers and, perhaps, weaving a tapestry of connection that neither of their peoples had imagined possible. Stepping into this new dawn, they understood that their love was not merely a side story. It stood at the forefront of their quest, providing the very foundation they needed to bridge the chasm between their worlds. Together, in a universe filled with uncertainties, Arva and Ethan dared to dream, forever ready to face the shadows lingering just beyond the light. As they embraced this truth, a quiet yet powerful revelation stretched out before them, an unyielding belief that the future they envisioned was ultimately theirs to define. In creating anew, they had birthed hope, not just for themselves but for their races intertwined in a web of compassion, learning to navigate the mysteries of life together. Underneath the weight of the stars forming a cosmic tapestry, there hung the bittersweet understanding that even amid shadows, the act of love could illuminate the darkest corners of existence. And so their journey continued, as they deftly weaved love, science, and resilience into a vibrant epic that would ripple through time, a testament to the human heart's infinite capacity for hope. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.